Good evening. I would like to call the City of Mount Vernon City Council meeting to order for December 11th, 2024. The time is now 7:01. Would you please stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Item 1C on the agenda is the roll call of council members. I will ask our city clerk to please call the roll.
Councilmember Beaton.
Here.
Councilmember Brocksmith.
Is excused tonight.
Councilmember Correas.
Here.
Councilmember Hudson.
Here.
Councilmember Molinar.
Here.
Councilmember Tesoro.
Here.
Councilmember Vanderstoop.
Is joining us online and present. Thanks, Becky. Item 2, the approval of tonight's council agenda meeting. Any proposed changes to the agenda, or are we good with the agenda as it is, council?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Melissa and a second by Nabor. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion passes. We are moving on to community comments. If there's anyone in council chambers, and I believe there are, who would like to address city council tonight, please come up to the podium. Please state your name and city of residence, and please limit your comments to about 3 minutes.
Yes, Jim Satcher, Mount Vernon. Let me, can I drop this off to everybody?
Yeah, is that something you want people to see right now or later?
They can look at it later.
Okay, you can give it to the city clerk then, please. Becky's right over there.
All right, very
Thanks,
good.
Jim.
I'll just go ahead and read from this and try and be fairly quick. Anyway, I'm standing before the city council covering key points affecting wetland overgrowth at the 2 ponds on Landmark Drive. Trees growing in the pond are a serious threat to my home and to any person walking or driving by. A request that I be allowed to select a licensed arborist to top the critical trees, then deduct the incurred costs from my property tax. More trees fell again when the bomb cycle hit. Winter is just beginning. Rainwater is filling the ponds and softening the soil where the trees grow. Submerged tree roots and damaging trees are rotting. The city incorrectly told me the ponds are owned by the golf course, but homeowners told me that the ponds pre-existed the building of the golf course, and a document provided to me by the city notes that the city of Mount Vernon owns the ponds. Until a few years ago, the city serviced the ponds. The city is aware that the trees have fallen onto 2 adjacent properties, one nearly hitting a homeowner en route to her mailbox. That was 20 inches in diameter, 60 feet, weighing close to 3,000 pounds, fell right in front of her. Went across 2 properties. Other trees have fallen onto the sidewalk. One large tree broke and fell across the pond, sidewalk, and street and hit my property, while another 80-foot tall, 4,000-pound tree growing in the pond will hit my house, according to an arborist. A code enforcement employee came to the pond to tell me that similar trees grow on his property, and they do fall. An arborist is not needed to confirm that trees growing and leaning in a 6-foot deep pond filled with water can fall. The ponds contain, the remains of trees that have fallen over the years. When we bought our home on Landmark Drive in 1998, we saw a mother with children sitting on a blanket while others were walking around in what I thought was a city park. I called the city when I saw a tree starting to grow inside the larger pond. The city employee came to the pond to tell me that the ponds were a nature reserve where trees were allowed to grow. Had she told me that the pond was owned by the golf course, I would have alerted Ed Young of CVAN, who then managed the golf course, and have him ensure that the tree be removed. I was with the same city employee when she directed that tree branches laying on the ground be placed inside the ponds to feed the soil. If the golf course owned the property, then why did the city allow trees to grow and branches to be tossed in the pond? Was the golf course funded by the city but I'm not quite sure what that is, by the city for allowing trees that are banned to grow where they could damage property, private and city property, or injure or kill someone? And there are photos here, you can see it from there. Kevin and I have talked about this times. But either way, it needs to be presented to the city council. I'll hand this over, and any questions? I can get a haircut and Gary can fill me. No. All right, doesn't have to be a haircut. I mean, all right. Any questions? And
I think if you want to, if council has your email address, I think we have your contact info on the way out.
everything's on the form.
They'll contact you directly. Jim, thanks for coming by.
All right, thanks a lot.
Thanks. Anyone else here to address council tonight? Come on up, state your name and your city of residence. Hello.
Good evening, Mayor Donovan and council members. My name is Tyler Jones. I live in Mount Vernon. I'm here representing, there's a few of us here tonight, about 40 homeowners that live up on the hill between Fur and Division. And we have some concerns about the school district property where the old YMCA is. We want to introduce ourselves to you and express those concerns over the upcoming potential sale of that property. We understand the reality of housing in our city and the state and how important that is. We also understand the need for development and the lack of a budget for the city to purchase that property to make it into a park. I think everyone in our group has an ideal vision of what that property should become, but I think we can be realistic and say that it's probably going to be sold and developed. We would really like to be part of that process. And I think we can all agree there are some basic things moving forward that we all would like to see happen in that old, beautiful neighborhood. Neighborhoods can change without changing the character of that neighborhood. We hope that we can work with the city to ensure, and the city council, to ensure that the existing trees are kept, those large, beautiful trees that we have in the park, just like the ones in the high school, and that green space is mandated in any future development. Your own PROS plan, future vision, states that we should be within 5 minutes of a park. The high school was kind of listed as our park, but it's a closed campus. We're not really able to use that as a park. The YMCA grass is used daily by our neighbors. We plan to apply for representation on the citizen committees for planning and climate. We'd like to have input on the upcoming comprehensive plan. We would like to ensure transparency with the school district's efforts to find a buyer for the property. We'd like to ensure that we can use the existing codes and ordinances and be part of the design for future codes and ordinances to keep the trees, have green space, and foster a continuation of the neighborhoods that have developed through the history of Mount Vernon. We'd like to safeguard the things that we cherish about our neighborhood. Infill is a necessary part of growth, but it can be done in a way that does not exclude the needs of a safe, quiet, and beautiful neighborhood that already exists. This is not a one-time approach or meeting from us. We would like to be involved in the future of the city and our neighborhood especially. We have heard lots of interest in this topic among all of your constituents, not just the ones that live in our neighborhood. Our group of 40 plus people has come together just in the last month, and that's just through impromptu emails back and forth, and some of us met for the first time in the lobby. That is only going to get bigger as time goes on. This isn't the only large potential piece of property for sale in the city. And in an already established neighborhood. So we'd look forward to working with you in the future. Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Anyone else like to address council tonight? Any other community comments? Yeah, sure, come on
I'm
up.
sorry for being late. I'm part of the Arts Council. I was supposed to get sworn in and I
Yes.
lost track. of
You
time.
didn't miss it.
Thank you.
Isn't that the best news when you find out you're actually early? Welcome. Thank you, neighbors. All right, anyone else wishing to address council tonight? Last chance. All right. All right, well, item 4 tonight is the consent agenda, and it includes meeting minutes, payroll checks, wire transfers, claims, and agreements. Council, would you like to move for adoption of the consent agenda?
Move for approval of our consent agenda.
Second.
Motion by Mary and a second by Melissa. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Consent agenda is approved. Item 5 is committee reports. For committee reports, council held their Public Works and Library Committee meeting at 6 p.m. this evening. Councilmember Gary Molinar is the chair and he's going to give us a recap. Gary.
We opened the meeting at 6 o'clock tonight, and after the approval of the November 13 minutes, Isaac Huffman, our library director, gave us some updates on the finishing touches going on at our library. It's 98% complete, but pretty much everything is open. It's just going to be kind of a little punch list that has to get filled out. We should be get most of that done by the end of the first quarter. The library is going to fix some of the signage that has been missing some of its letters, so don't worry about that. The library is returning to story time. It's also doing trainings for its staff, especially with the new library and the size of it. Library is also doing some booking events. There's a 12-person conference room that is almost ready to go. And they'll have full technology offerings along with a live wall, which are going to be available. They have new Lego tables and Nintendo Switch and a sitting snake in the children's area, which doesn't sound great, but that's more just a seating area. Isaac also wanted to reiterate that at our library, the safety is a top priority, and I think that's going to be a very good thing going forward these days. Up next, we had Chris Phillips give us an update on Stokely Tower. That's going to get repainted and redone, along with new signage up there, and hopefully lighting in the future, since it is one of our standard, what'd you call it?
I called it an icon.
It's an
Structure in our
iconic structure.
downtown skyline.
Yes,
Skyline?
yes. So we will be, KA General Contractors was the lowest bid, and that will be $522,000. So it's not going to be cheap, but it's going to look great when it's done. What's coming up in 2025? Frank Reiner gave us some capital project updates. Riverside Drive improvement. Design is in phase 2, Riverside Drive improvements. That's in the design phase. Caution Trail safety lighting, 30th Street improvements, LaVenture improvements. There will be widening in design and construction this summer. 225 overlay design and construction phases. Be focusing on Old Highway 99. 15th Street sidewalk design, summer fall construction. So there'll be some things going up there. Carpenter Creek Hickox culvert replacement. And then there's also going to be what's coming up in 2025. Blackburn Road extension planning and federal funding phase. Pavement preservation. Combined sewer separation feasibility study. And transportation safety committee improvements. Let me see here. Supporting design of WashDOT Martha Creek culvert replacement. There was quite a big list of that. I probably won't list them all. Next, Chris gave us some facility updates of the projects that have been going on in our buildings around in the city of Mount Vernon. We had huge projects that were, especially dealing with HVAC on our buildings. Most of those have been replaced along with roofs. There's also been, security updates, cameras, emergency generators that were put into our buildings, which will, provide safety in a case of emergency. And, but that was, definitely coming out of some of the ARPA funds, which was very, very useful to our city. We've also placed some of the roofs, so. And we got new chairs. That was probably the biggest one of them all. All right, there was no public, or there was no good for the order, and we closed the meeting at 6:59.
Thanks, Gary. And before parts of your report go viral, I wanted to reiterate that there is no live snake in the library.
Right.
Your children are safe there. There is a snake-shaped bench in the library. It's fantastic. You should see that. Okay. Council member comments is the next item. Any council member comments this evening? In person or online?
I want to
Gary?
say, just a fantastic turnout for the Christmas parade, and I think my favorite was the lowriders.
Yeah, yeah.
My grandkids were going crazy when they were jumping up and down, and yeah, it was pretty impressive. So
You'll
great turnout.
Hopefully get to see those again. The Cinco de Mayo parade, they were in the last one. That was-
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a highlight of that one too, for me. Bouncing car.
Bouncy car.
Okay. All right, we will move on to item 5C. It's the mayor's report. First thing I wanted to let residents know is about the community kickoff meeting for the comprehensive plan update. What is the comprehensive plan update? I'm super glad that you asked. The comprehensive plan is the city's 20-year plan that we update every 8 years. So this plan that we are updating, this year we started and will be well into next year, is for the years 2025 to 2045. So the comprehensive plan takes a look at our population growth, our projected population growth over the next 20 years, as we are likely to grow or projected to grow from a city of 36,000 to about 47,000. And we have a housing allocation that's tied to that. So the state tells us how many housing units we're going to need to accommodate for that growth. And we're looking at about the need for about 5,000 dwelling units within the city. So what does our inventory of buildable lands look like? That information comes out of a comprehensive plan update. And how will the city accommodate all of this growth? That is the underlying question that kind of fuels this update. Our parks, our streets, our wastewater treatment plant, all of the services that we provide as a city, and even our impact to the environment as we provide those services. So the bottom line for our city is that changes are coming, growth is coming, and as residents, we can either let those changes or that growth happen to us, or we can take action and participate and help shape by giving input to the parameters and the restrictions that are put on that growth. So that's what we're inviting you to do to ensure that this city and the growth that happens fits our city as well as possible. Kickoff meeting is this Saturday, and it's at the Mount Vernon Library Commons, and it's your first opportunity to begin to shape those decisions. So the group that spoke during community comments tonight, an ideal spot for them to come and start giving some of that input and the changes they'd like to see in the city firsthand. And as always, we want to make decisions about the city's future with our residents. So Saturday, December 14th, 1 o'clock to 3:30 at the new Library Commons Community Center. We hope you all can make it. I also want to highlight a couple of fun events that took place this past weekend. First took place at Mount Vernon Police Department last Saturday, and the community showed up in a big way to provide a record amount of gifts for children in our community. The donated gifts will be wrapped and delivered to kids through some of our outstanding local agencies like Triumph Teen Center, Bridget Collins, and Children of the Valley. So a huge thank you to Mount Vernon Police Department as well as some of the other local law enforcement agencies for putting all of that together yet again and breaking the record with the number of gifts there that you see piled up. It's pretty awesome. Hopefully will make a couple of Christmases better for some families in our area. The second festive event Gary mentioned was another record breaker at the largest holiday parade that Mount Vernon has seen. Rolled through downtown Sunday night. Thousands of folks came out to watch the parade and see the Christmas tree lighting. You can see there in the picture on the left that our library staff had a creative and clever way to participate in the parade as they booked their reservation early to get into the lineup. Pause for laughter. And then the shot on the right there is Chief Bryce and I, and we are co-marshalling our first, well, it was my first parade of marshalling a parade. Is that a thing? Marshalling. So turns out it's totally different than what I thought it was, but it was a lot of fun. Got to ride in a fire vehicle with sirens and lights, so another first for me. And then finally, this Tuesday is your last opportunity in 2024 to participate in the Mayor's Coffee event. We could probably call this Mayor's Guacamole event, or I don't know. On Tuesday, December 17th, we will be getting together at Koa Mexican Eatery at 1810 Riverside Drive. We're going to talk about all of the city-related things that you can think of and ask. Show up at 10 a.m. You can stay for lunch if you'd like and support this incredible locally owned business. And speaking of local businesses, I like to hold mayor's coffees at different businesses throughout the city in order to highlight some of the incredible establishments that we have here. So if you are one of those incredible establishments, not just restaurants, and you'd like to host a future mayor's coffee, please contact the mayor's office, 360-336-6211, or email us at mvmayor@mountvernon.gov. And that is your mayor's report for December 11th, 2024. Thank you, Steve.
Yep.
Item D is committee agenda requests. Council, your committee agenda requests. We've got most of those out. Okay. So we are moving on to new business, and under new business, item A is the appointment of 2 Arts Commission members. I will ask our Parks Director, Jennifer Berner, to please introduce this item and our applicants. Hi, Jennifer.
Good evening, Council, Mayor and Council. So this evening, we have 2 folks that we would like to appoint to the Arts Commission. We have Hannah Oliver. She is a new Arts Commissioner, which will start her term in 2025, January of 2025. And we have Kathy Roche Zuko. She is already on the commission and wants to return to the Arts Commission for another 3-year term. And so these 2 individuals are here this evening to be sworn in to the Arts Commission. And they will be each will be appointed for a 3-year term. So with that, we're just asking for your approval for their appointment to the Arts Commission.
All right. Council, any questions about Arts Commission or approval process? Okay. Any motion to approve the 2 appointments?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Navor and a second by Udis. Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. The motion passes, and we are going to pause business for just a moment while I swear in a couple of new Arts Commission members.
No, I just got no, you're good. Hannah, there we go.
I, Hannah Oliver, do solemnly swear
Do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution and laws
that I will support the Constitution and laws
of the United States
of the United States
and the Constitution and laws
and the Constitution and laws
of the State of Washington,
of the State of Washington,
and that I will faithfully and impartially
and that I will faithfully and impartially
perform and discharge
perform and discharge
the duties of
the duties of
Mount Vernon Arts Commission member
Mount Vernon Arts Commission member
for the city of Mount Vernon,
for the city of Mount Vernon,
in and for the county of Skagit,
in and for the county of Skagit,
state of Washington,
state of Washington,
according to law,
according to law,
to the best of my ability and understanding.
to the best of my ability and understanding.
All right. I, Kathy Roche Zuko,
I, Catherine Roche Zuko,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support
that I will support
the Constitution and laws
the Constitution and laws
of the United States
of the United States
and the Constitution and laws
and the Constitution and laws
of the state of
of the
Washington,
state of Washington,
and that I will faithfully and impartially,
and that I will faithfully and impartially
thank you, perform and discharge
perform and discharge
the duties of
the duties of
Mount Vernon Arts Commission member
Mount Vernon Arts Commission member
for the city of Mount
for
Vernon
the city of Mount Vernon
and for the county of
and
Skagit,
for the county of Skagit,
state of Washington,
state of Washington,
according to law,
according to law,
to the best of my
to the
ability and
best of my
understanding.
ability and understanding.
Congratulations.
Nice job on pronouncing Lucian's.
I've been practicing already.
Yeah, that was very good. It was very impressive.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
Thanks, Becky.
Thank you, Hannah and Kathy, for showing up this evening to do this. So, and thank you for coming on board for 3 years. Really appreciate it.
Item 6B is the approval of an amended lease agreement. Jennifer Berner has this one as well. Jennifer.
Yes, so I'm here before to talk to you about the renewal of the Vokes House Apartment Lease Agreement. This comes up every year in December. The Vokes House Apartment Lease is due for its renewal. Upon review of the rental property rates in Mount Vernon, staff is recommending the rate increased an additional $25 per month. I think you saw in the report there that how we came up with that amount. The new rental rate will be $475 a month. The rate had not been increased for several years. I came on board in 2020 and we were in the pandemic and we just said that's not really a good time to be raising rents. We want to keep people where they're at. And so we've done this renewal and thought that it was time to do a slight rate increase. And so the caretaker duties are part of the rent with this particular rental. So upon annual evaluation of comparable rental rates, it was determined the monthly rate is equal to $1,075, with $600 being deducted for caretaker duties, bringing the adjusted monthly rental rate to $475. So the caretaker duties include monitoring the rental. So any rental that happens there on site, we do rent out that facility. They monitor it. So they check them in, they make sure they're there while the rental is happening, and they check them out at the end of their rental period. They also do some outdoor maintenance of some of the beds and stuff right there, right around close to the house. So with that, staff is requesting council to authorize the mayor to enter into a rental agreement with the Vokes House apartment rental property located at 3011 First Street.
Thanks. Any questions for Jennifer?
I have a quick question,
Yeah.
if I could. Jennifer, I noticed that, I think it was on page 3, there's no washer and dryer,
There is not.
but yet we're asking them to do the cleaning. And so what I was wondering is, obviously they don't mind because it hasn't had a washer and dryer, but if we could consider getting a small stackable washer and dryer, only because, I mean, when you're cleaning, it creates laundry. And I don't know, just me, I guess.
We can certainly look into it. It's a very small space. We
Okay.
do have a garage there, so we could look at that. And so it's something we could certainly look into. Thank you
Just
for
for
bringing that up.
consideration.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Other questions?
So if no one has any other questions, I'll just make a motion that council approve the rental agreement.
Second.
Motion by Melissa and a second by Gary. Any more discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say no. Motion passes. Item 6C is the approval of an agreement with Western Display Fireworks. Jennifer.
So this is for our 2025 4th of July fireworks show. Western Display Fireworks has supplied the city with their fireworks for several years, and we received another quote for them for this year, and the quote came in at $19,250, a slight increase from each year. Every year it goes up a little bit. This is all money that is covered through the lodging tax. So the money that pays for this is through the lodging tax grant. For funding for the fireworks, it's about a 20-minute show. And last year, it went off really well. And I think everybody enjoyed the show. It's similar, what they're proposing for 2025 is very similar to what we saw in 2024. So with that, staff recommends council approve the mayor to enter into the agreement with Western Display Fireworks for the 4th of July fireworks show for 2025.
And potentially a new hotel open and RV resort open. Maybe it'll bring in more people on the 4th of July and more lodging tax. Council, any questions for Jennifer?
So we all know I was going to have a question or two.
Oh, right. Budget.
Yes.
Yeah.
One question.
So I understand that, it may be cost prohibitive to do any type of drone show or anything like that. And I do understand that the significant love of traditional fireworks. What I would like us to potentially consider, as I'm looking at page 14 of our packet, and it's held at Edgewater Park, and a big old circle right over the Skagit River, and it says fallout area. So I do have concerns about the toxins that are falling into our river. Is there a potential that we could consider at some point down the road of moving the location, potentially to, I don't know, Bakerview Park or Skagit River or the fairgrounds? I know Disneyland can do fireworks and there's a density, a lot of people. So I just want us to consider that. I just think the look of us doing it over the river, and then yet we have this state-of-the-art library, a hop, skip, and a jump away, that's forward-thinking for the environment. I just want to consider that at some point.
Good comments. Yeah. No.
I would like to ask for future,
Mhm.
also that we do get a price on a drone show. I know you've done that in the past. Maybe we could incorporate that next year again to just compare them. At least
Absolutely.
something that we can talk about.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No, I can reach back out to the folks that we talked to before and see if there's others too, and get a quote for that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
If anyone couldn't hear, the request was for the pricing of a drone show for 4th of July.
Yeah.
Okay, I would entertain a motion unless there's another question. Okay.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Navor and a second by Gary. More discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Jennifer. Item 6D is the approval of an agreement with King Technologies for the city's ADA transition plan, and Capital Projects Manager Frank Reinhardt will introduce this one. Hello, Frank.
Thank you, Mayor, City Council. So I'm coming forward tonight to bring an amendment for your consideration. This is just to clean up the nature of the contract for the Americans with Disabilities Act Transition Plan update. We are currently contracted with King Technologies. We contracted with them in late 2023 for the project. Due to the changeover in staff in Public Works, that project was largely on hold for much of 2024. Consequently, not a lot of progress was made. It was assumed that we were going to finish that project by the end of this year, and that didn't come to be. We're getting it kicked off for next year. So this amendment will extend the duration of the contract with King Technologies from a contract end date of December 31st, 2024 to a contract end date of December 31st, 2025, so that we make sure that we don't have the contract expire on us and have to kind of start all over again with a new consultant and such. So that's kind of the basic summary. We've talked in other circumstances about the ADA transition plan. But in short, the ADA transition plan's intention is focused on our transportation system and particularly our non-motorized pedestrian accessibility requirements. Those typically focus on intersections and crosswalks and the ramps, pedestrian ramps at those intersections. That's not just the ramp surface, but that's also the accessibility of things such as pedestrian push buttons, as well as general accessibility issues, minimum widths, minimum turning radii for wheelchairs, detectable areas. In a lot of areas, we have to configure the ramp in order to guide people. Identification of areas where we don't want people to cross. Washington state law basically establishes that any intersection, any leg of any intersection is a crosswalk unless we designate it otherwise, whether it's marked as a crosswalk or not. So consequently, this ADA transition plan is important to identify all those so that we can make one of two decisions essentially. Either we can update it to the current standards where there's pedestrian facilities at those intersections, or we start to sign where they can't cross for one reason or another. This ADA transition plan serves a couple different purposes. It serves as a update to inventory the non-compliant areas throughout the city. So there's a broad mapping exercise associated with it. There's a broad public outreach and education program on it. We need to take another look at our administration of the program, from who do they contact, how is a ADA claim, if they file a concern with ADA, how do we administer that so that we make sure that we're administering that in accordance with applicable state and federal law. And so this plan will take a look at all that and help us to craft that out, that update. That update needs to be provided to the Washington State Department of Transportation and the Federal Department of Transportation in 2025. So we definitely want to push to get this update. Hitherto now, the city has operated under a draft plan. I think the last time the draft plan was updated was about 2018. And even in 2017, it was a draft. So we have been functioning unofficially for a very long time, and it's time for us to formalize our ADA transition plan and strategy. So staff recommends that City Council authorize the mayor to execute a professional services agreement agreement amendment, I should say, with King Technologies to extend the contract duration for this project. Do you have any questions?
Council questions? Council motions?
Make a motion to authorize a mayor to execute a contract with amendment with King Technologies.
Second.
Motion by Gary, a second by Melissa. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion passes.
Thank you very much for your consideration.
Thanks for getting that going, dusting that off, Frank. Item 6E is a 2024 budget amendment. City Finance Director Doug Valesky has this item. Hello, Doug.
Hello, thank you, Mayor, council members. Not seeing my presentation here.
Way to move under pressure, Doug.
Sorry about that.
Like a finance director.
All right. So tonight I asked a request for council to approve an ordinance for a final amendment to our 2024 city budget. Just a kind of an overview, as you know, back last November 15th of 2023, the council adopted the 2024 annual budget. And then in June 26th, there was another budget amendment that was done. So tonight is just a final adjustment for the 2024 budget. We are not allowed to go over any of our appropriations by fund at the fund level. So I'm here tonight just to ask for some amounts to make sure. Most of these things you guys already heard about throughout the year, or we talked about during the budget time. And again, a lot of these numbers that I have in here, probably we're not going to be using them all, but we never know what kind of, this is our very last opportunity unless we call you guys back in here before, December 31st to increase it. So anyway, so I do have some cushion in there just to make sure and that we'll have enough. We've accounted for most of these adjustments during our 2025 budget process. Part of our budget process was to look at what we were going to be spending in for 24, and so that's included in there. And then obviously, you look at, you just kind of see the things that are high. This does not include a lot of the budget lines that are under budget that you're seeing. So with that, we'll start out with our Fund 109, which is our crime prevention fund. This is to account for additional revenue that we receive from the asset forfeiture program. And then those additional revenues were used to offset the neighborhood cleanup program. And so we're asking for just under $14,000 in revenues and expenses to account for that. In our Fund 121, which is our ARPA fund, American Rescue Plan Act fund, this is to account for the expenditure carryover from the 2023 budget, as well as expenditures for additional revenue due to reversing out our ARPA contribution from the Mount Vernon Library Commons project. Fund 122, our affordable and supporting housing, this is our HB 1406 money. We're asking for $16,000. This is to account for a $10,000 council-approved contribution to YouthNet earlier in the year, and then also $6,000 for a 2023 budget carryover for the Catholic Community Service contract for Martha's Place. And then Fund 123, this is the affordable housing and sales tax, use tax. One of the things, these next two I'll just talk about together here. We had this, all of this affordable housing and sales and use tax 1590 money all combined in one fund. But just to make it easier is that we can account for it because it has different statutory requirements between 40% and 60%. So this is giving us to record a reserve transfer. We're moving 60% of the reserves that were in this fund into the new Fund 124, which is the affordable housing sales and use tax, the 60%. So, which is this next one. And so not only are we asking for this, we're authority, we're also asking for a new fund to be created, and that's what we're requesting here. And again, so that will be for the 60% portion of it. We're using this to, in the revenue side, to bring over the reserve from the Fund 123, and then also $760,000 in revenue expenses just to for appropriations for expenditures coming from that and revenues that are being received in 2024 that are currently being charged there. Does that all make sense? I know we've talked about this many times, but okay. Fund 301, the Mount Vernon Library Commons project. This is for $11 million revenues and expenses to account for actual capital expenses and grant revenues received from the Mount Vernon Library Commons project. Obviously, this is a large amount. We're looking, this project, there was a lot of carryovers from one year to the next. We also, not to mention all the expenses that we had to do, but we also had the $19 million bond payment that we made. So this is just a true up to make sure we have enough authority to do everything that we had said. And then the last is Fund 306, which is our fire capital project. And this is to carry over budgeted expenditures from 2023 that were not expended until 2024 in the amount of $1.1 million. So I mentioned earlier that we do everything at the fund level, and I could just do one for the general fund, but we also use this kind of to help align our budget lines, making sure that we have the right numbers in our just for history and tracking. And so instead of the fund level, I kind of given more detail here into the general fund and provide some cleanup. One of the things in 2020, when we did our 2024 budget, we did not have included in the budget the new paid family medical leave, which we've had in here this whole year, and it is budgeted in 2025. So I'm asking for $40,900. That's going to actually go to all of our funds in the general fund for paid family medical leave. Also, there was an increase in probation costs from municipal courts, so that we're asking for $123,000 in that. Finance state auditor costs were $15,000 projected to be over. Those that attended the audit conference today, you heard them say that they're coming in right where they were budgeted, but they were over last year, and our audit went into the beginning of 2024, so we had extra costs there. The police department, we're looking for $23,000 for prisoner transports. The fire department, $547,000 for some additional overtime, vehicle repairs, vehicle maintenance, radios, things that are there. I won't go into all the details with that. Excuse me. And CDBG, is our Skagit County Community Action and Welcome Home Skagit contributions that council had approved, a total of $35,000. And then last, in our non-department, Department 99, under Public Defense and Skagit County Department of Emergency Services increases that we talked about in the our 2025 budget, an increase for 24 appropriations of about $207,000 in total. So with that, anybody has any questions?
Council questions for Doug?
Move to ordinance 3903, is that correct?
Does that sound right? I don't know.
3903?
Yes.
3903, yep.
Second.
Motion by Gary and a second by Mary. Any more discussion? Amendment? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say no. Passes. Item 6F is the approval of an interfund loan. Doug has this too.
Thank you, Mayor. So staff recommends that council approve an ordinance authorizing an interfund loan from the equipment rental fund to the fire capital project fund in the amount of $900,000 and appropriating the said sum for the purpose of providing temporary financing for the fire capital projects fund. The Fire Capital Project Fund was created to fund capital expenditures for the fire department, including the bond payment for the fire station remodel projects and all capital equipment, vehicles, including fire engines and ambulances. This fund is funded mainly by our GEMT revenues and starting in 2025 with direct contributions from our EMS levy. With major capital expenditures from the fire station remodel projects hitting in 2024, the fund reserves and 2024 revenues were insufficient to meet the expenses, which would leave a negative fund reserve balance. This loan would fund the expenses over a 4-year term to which this fund would adequately have positive fund reserves. Staff recommends that City Council establish an interfund loan from the Equipment Rental Fund with proceeds going to the Fire Capital Fund in the amount of $900,000 and appropriating said fund sum for the purpose of providing temporary financing for the Fire Capital Project Fund. The ER&R fund will have sufficient cash balances remaining after the loan funds are transferred to the Fire Capital Project Fund to accommodate all future vehicles and equipment replacements during the loan period. The ER&R fund cash and investment balance on December 31st, 2024 is estimated to be about $8.2 million. The interest rate, which will be 2.35% per annum, is to be charged on the interfund loan is consistent with the city's current earnings rate, our weighted yield on our investment portfolio, and reflective of what the equipment rental fund would otherwise have been earning. The ordinance states that the loan will be repaid in full within 4 years, but no later than December 31st of 2028. And further directs the finance director to make annual payments of $238,372.25 from the Fire Capital Fund until the loan is paid in full. So with that, staff is recommending that council approve an ordinance authorizing an interfund loan from the Equipment Rental Fund to the Fire Capital Projects Fund in the amount of $900,000 and appropriating the said fund.
Council questions for Doug on the interfund loan? Could be ordinance 3904.
I'd move to approve ordinance 3904.
Motion by Mary and a second by Edith. More discussion. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say no. Motion passes. Thank you, Doug.
All right, thank you.
Item 6G is the approval of an agreement with KA General Construction to renew and restore the historic Stokely Water Tower icon in our downtown district. And here is Public Works Director Chris Phillips.
Thank you, Mayor. This is, again, a bid award and approval of contract for the iconic Stokely Tower Recoat project. Staff recommends approval of the bid award to KA General Construction of Woodinville, Washington, and authorization for the mayor to execute a contract for the the iconic Stokely Tower Recoat project for their bid in the amount of $522,673.14. Stokely Tower improvements are currently needed to remove of rust and a recoating of paint. The contract provides for the removal of old paint from Stokely Tower, including all applicable lead abatement protocols for removal and disposal of lead-bearing paint and rust, full restoration of the tower to include a new City of Mount Vernon logo, and removal and reinstallation of existing conduit and equipment as necessary for this particular project. Once again, staff recommends approval of the bid to KA General Construction LLC of Woodinville, Washington, and authorization for the mayor to execute a contract for the iconic Stokely Tower Recoat project for their bid in the amount of $522,673.14, pending your questions.
Thank you, Chris. Council, thank you for the support of getting some paint off the rust bucket. Yeah, it's looking bad. It's a bit of an eyesore, but this will help a lot. Questions for Chris? This again is ARPA funded.
Good thing we've had the ARPA funding because it has been significant for infrastructure in our city. So that's great. I'll make a motion that council approve the bid award to KA General Construction for the iconic Stokely Tower Recoat project.
Second.
Motion by Melissa, second by the iconic Gary Molinar. Any discussion on the item?
Wow.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion passes. Thank you, Chris. Item 6H tonight is a closed record public hearing and approval of an ordinance. And Development Services Director Stacy Pratchner will introduce this item. Stacy.
Thank you, Mayor. Go ahead and load up the presentation. And do I understand that the new iconic tower will be covered in tulips?
No.
Oh, tulips.
No. That's yours.
Way to open that conversation.
Too soon. Thanks for your patience with me while I load this up. All right. All right, good evening, Mayor and Council. So this evening is the closed record public hearing for the council to deliberate on a recommendation from the city's hearing examiner to approve a request from the Mount Vernon Christian School to rezone one of two parcels that comprise their school campus. The purpose of the request, along with the later request on the agenda for the updated master plan and the approval of traffic concurrency, and I'll present that after this, is to facilitate the Christian school's plans to phase redevelopment of their campus over approximately 15 years at their existing location to accommodate for their planned student and also their staff, administrative, and teachers' growth. So this evening, in addition to myself, the project manager and senior planner that worked on the project, Ms. Marianne Mainville Ailes, as well as the city's transportation and traffic consultant, TSI, Steve, is joining us over Zoom, and Marianne is back there. All of us are available to the council if there's any questions that we can answer about this request. So for the recommendation, the city's hearing examiner has recommended that subsequent to the council holding the closed record hearing this evening, that the council make a motion to authorize the mayor to sign the accompanying ordinance and approve the Mount Vernon Christian Schools rezone request. So provided in advance of tonight's hearing is the examiner's recommendation along with the complete material record for your consideration. So briefly tonight with the council, I'd like to review the regulatory framework that we're operating under this evening, as well as provide an overview of the geographic area and a brief description of the rezone proposal. Finally, I'll provide a summary of the findings and then additionally review that recommendation one more time. So this evening, the council is acting in what's called a quasi-judicial capacity, and that means that this body is acting in a court-like setting and applying existing regulations to a specific request to determine its veracity. In this case, a rezone that is consistent with an underlying comp plan land use designation. So this graphic, and for those, you've known me for about a year and a half now, and you've seen this graphic before, summarizes broadly the three types of land use decisions. At the top, we have legislative decisions that are wholly within the realm of the city council, while quasi-judicial decisions, in this case, can overlap with hearing examiner and with the city council. So for rezones that are consistent with the comp plan that are under consideration this evening, like this application, Chapter 1405-080 recognizes the city council as the final decision maker, with the hearing examiner being the recommending body to the city council. Now, quasi-judicial permit decisions are governed under the Local Project Review Act of the state RCWs, and because of their court-like nature, they are subject to the legal, procedural, and factual requirements of not just administrative permit review, which is the realm that your planning department operates under when it does permit review, but is also subject to additional steps, like a detailed staff report that encompasses the entire material record that was provided to you in advance of this evening's hearing, as well as opportunities for testimony through the public hearing. Now, the hearing examiner has recommended to council that the rezone request, as conditioned, will meet the procedural and substantive requirements of the applicable regulations. In other words, the request has been found to meet the legal, procedural, and factual requirements of the applicable codes and laws. So very quickly, this graphic demonstrates the campus location of the Christian School at 820 West Blackburn Road. The aerial demonstrates the currently developed portion of the school site. Now, the rezone request applies to the parcel in purple, that southern parcel that's shown on the left side of the graphic. It is currently zoned commercial limited industrial. Now, if it's council's pleasure to approve the request this evening, the parcel will rezone to a public designation that will make it consistent with the parcel designation that encompasses most of the developed campus, and that will make it consistent then with the underlying comp plan land use designation, which is also public, and which will help the Christian School plan for its future facilities planning over the next 15 years. This slide briefly provides a summary of some of the procedural and substantive information. So going back to that slide about the request needing to have legal, procedural, and factual compliance with applicable codes. It's the southern 11.66 acres of the entire approximately 30-acre site that's the subject of the request. The proposal to go to the public zoning will be consistent with the rest of the site as well as the underlying comprehensive plan designation. The hearing examiner held a duly noticed open record public hearing on October 31st, 2024. The hearing examiner has recommended approval, and tonight we are also holding a duly noticed closed record public hearing consistent with state and local code. In summary, the findings, again, as we've discussed so far, the applicant has satisfied the rezone criteria that's outlined in the MVMC, as well as completed the procedural requirement associated with rezones. We've completed the required public process up to this point, and the hearing examiner, again, has recommended approval of the request, and what's been included in your packet is the hearing examiner's report, as well as staff's original report and the approximately 900 pages of material record, which I'm sure you had plenty of time to peruse before you came here this evening. Thank you so much for your time. It would be my pleasure if you have any questions from me about the rezone or from the project planner, Ms. Meadville-Ailes. TSI is here, though I imagine if there are questions about traffic concurrency, that's likely to come up when we look at the second resolution that's on the agenda. Thank you.
Questions for our traffic consultant or staff? Stacey, I guess I have a procedural question. This quasi-judicial process and position that council is put in right now. Is that unique to Mount Vernon? Does every jurisdiction do that and add this step?
Thank you so much, Mayor, for mentioning that. So, the answer is not every jurisdiction does that. It's a practice that is, it is slowly going away. Best recommendation, and city attorney can also verify this as well, is that quasi-judicial decisions remain in the realm of the hearing examiner. The hearing examiner is most often a land use attorney who is hired and experienced in being able to make quasi-judicial decisions. That serves a couple of functions that work to the good of the city council. It means that the city council has an opportunity to interact with their constituents on projects. When city council is in the role in a quasi-judicial capacity, it means you have to be very cautious about ex parte communication and appearance of fairness, and it can limit your ability to talk with your constituents about their development projects when you're put in a decision-making role. Second is also the timeliness factor of permits. In order for the hearing examiner to make a recommendation, that means it does take time to come here and have a second closed record hearing and to prepare. And as we know, a lot of emphasis from the state to speed up projects, particularly for housing, as we know. And so no big secret here. I don't think I'm making a surprise ending or anything like that, but we are working on some code that we'll be presenting next year for council to consider that will remove you from a quasi-judicial role. So I would enjoy this experience while you have the
Enjoy.
opportunity. So.
Yeah, it council in a time when we're trying to streamline our processes for permitting, and we've talked about this, but to have this step where we know that an application is, because of subject matter experts have reviewed it, it's consistent with the comprehensive plan. A hearing examiner has held it up to codes and said, this is the recommendation. And then there's this weird step where it comes to city council. And you can't really change much without new information being presented. And so it really puts elected officials in a strange position of not being able to talk with our constituents about things that matter to them and to the city. So anyway, I would look forward to having that process removed if that's the way council wants to go. Before we open the closed record hearing, just wanted to check in with Kevin and find out more about ex parte communication.
Sure, right. So I think there's a lot of council members who aren't familiar with these type of decision-making agenda items. As your planning director has identified, what you have here are two items. One is a site-specific rezone by the Mount Vernon Christian School on a particular piece of property. And inextricably linked to that is your next agenda item I, which is a school master plan that governs development and traffic concurrency. As your planning director correctly noted, these are what's called quasi-judicial decisions. Therefore, the council and potentially the mayor on I would be acting as a decision maker in that capacity, which subjects you to what's called the appearance of fairness, which is a higher ethical and conflict of interest standard than governs you under a legislative capacity. So I'm going to ask you a series of questions just to disclose whether or not there are potential conflicts of interest, so we can have a full and transparent record as to the decision making. So the first question would be, has any member of this council communicated with any proponent or opponent regarding the proposal that is subject of this proceeding? And the proceeding would be both the site-specific rezone and the master plan and traffic concurrency before you.
I need to disclose, I think I need to disclose, this is probably out of an abundance of caution, but just to keep all of it above board. So I've spoken with the superintendents of both the Mount Vernon Christian School and superintendent of Mount Vernon School District. The reason that I reached out to them was to invite them to a meeting to come and talk about some of the impacts to Blackburn Road that both school districts are contributing to, and to try to just come to some community agreement, partnership on how we can mitigate some of those impacts. So I don't know if that needs to be disclosed, but wanted you to know that I had those conversations.
Hearing nothing further, does any member of the council or office of the mayor have either a financial or personal interest in the outcome of this proceeding?
Do we, I just want to, do we know if Councilmember Vanderstoop, I mean,
Yeah, just checking in to see if Councilmember Vanderstoop is still on.
Yeah, I'm here. I don't have anything to do with Mount Vernon Christian School, so I don't anticipate any need to continue to say I don't have a conflict, but I will say so if I do.
Thank you.
Does any member of the council know whether or not their employer has any financial interest in the matter or has an interest in the outcome of this proceeding?
no. Are we supposed to say it out loud?
All in favor?
Feel free to, if you
No,
do,
you're not.
feel free to respond affirmatively.
Got my eyes.
Does any member of the council live or own property within 300 feet of the site-specific rezone? And I think there's another parcel associated with it. Yeah, within both parcels. Does any member of the council have any special knowledge about the substance or the merits of this proceeding which would cause the council member to prejudge the outcome of the proceeding? And by special knowledge, I mean what's not before you in the open record today, which is actually a closed record. Okay. Is there any member of the council who believes that he or she cannot sit and hear this matter fairly and impartially, both as to the respective positions of proponents or opponents to the proceedings? Okay, hearing none. This would be for the general audience. Is there any member of the audience who, because of the appearance of fairness doctrine, wishes to object and seek to disqualify any member of this council from hearing the matter? If so, please state the name of the council member and the basis for why you believe that member should be disqualified. And that basis must be as a result of a violation of the appearance of fairness doctrine. Hearing none.
I think we passed. Did we pass?
Say we are have made our required disclosures.
Skin of your teeth.
All right. With that, any other council questions before I open the closed record hearing? Any comments, Stacy?
I would make one final comment. Thank you, Mr. Rogerson, for taking us through that appearance of fairness and disclosure. It is disclosed in the material record, the conversations that the city has had with both the Christian school and the public school about the improvements, which we'll discuss in a little more detail. It is disclosed both in the hearing examiner's report, in the conversations about the city applying for grant funding and the safe routes to school, as well as in the AI generated transcript, in the descriptions of the work the city has done to assist the Christian school and the public school in working to achieve funding for the improvements. And so those disclosures are present within the material record. Thank you.
Great, thank you. With that, I don't know if anyone is here who is already on record. Those are the only folks that can speak, but I will open the closed record hearing at this time. Anyone wishing to speak? With that, I will close the closed record hearing. Council, this is ordinance 3905, if you want to make a motion.
I'll make a motion that authorizes the mayor to sign 3905.
Second.
Motion by Melissa and a second by Mary. Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. And motion passes. Item 6I, again, resolution, this time for the Mount Vernon Christian School Master Plan and Traffic Concurrency. Stacy, are there more notes on this one as well? Is a separate presentation?
Yes, a separate presentation.
All yours.
Thank you, Mayor. No, we'll go a little quicker this time. All right, thank you again, Mayor and City Council. So tonight, again, closed record public hearing for the council to deliberate on a recommendation from the city's hearing examiner to recruit additionally a request from the Mount Vernon Christian School to update their master plan and accompanying mitigation for traffic concurrency. So the purpose of the request, again, is to facilitate the Christian school's plans to phase redevelopment over approximately 15 years at their existing school campus. So again, myself, staff member Ms. Mainville Ailes, and Steve DeBolt with TSI, the city's traffic consultant, are all available if the city council has any questions. So again, the city's hearing examiner has recommended that subsequent to holding the closed record hearing, that the council make a motion to authorize the mayor to sign the accompanying resolution to approve the Mount Vernon Christian Schools plan to update their master plan and the concurrency request. So the entire material record has been provided to you in advance of this hearing. So briefly tonight, if you would like me to go through the regulatory framework again, I can, but I bet you don't want me to. And so let's just go ahead and jump into the meat of the findings. All right, so just again to orient us to the location, you can again see the developed area of the campus and the entirety of the approximately 30 acres to the north and then the 12 acres to the south. All right, so let's jump in a little bit into the project description, the reason for the master plan update. The master plan needs to be updated because there are some needed improvements that need to be phased over a few years. And that includes a two-story building for some classrooms, some additional teaching stations, administrative areas, and a parking lot that's going to hold approximately 70 additional vehicles. So we need some additions to the gym, the high school classroom building, and then some additional infrastructure and other public and private improvements that'll be associated with that as well. So the school's proposal is subject to what is called traffic concurrency, and that is locally codified in Chapter 1410 of the city's municipal code. So the concept of concurrency, which is encapsulated in the Growth Management Act, it's intended to ensure that public facilities like streets are adequate to serve new development without decreasing established level of service standards that are defined in our local comprehensive plan. So the school's proposal is going to generate 80 new PM peak hour trips, and that means that per the city's code, the council needs to review and approve that concurrency. So this project in summary is not going to cause any new traffic capacity level service deficiencies. And so what we've proposed is through doing phases 3 and 4, that we are going to potentially see some queuing issues with vehicles. We'll start to see some compromises there. So start some evaluation and some observation at that point, implement some travel demand management strategies, and of course condition that any new or modified pedestrian facilities, including sidewalks, driveway pads, curb ramps, on-site facilities, that they have to be compliant with the Americans with Disabilities Act. Now, additionally to the traffic concurrency and the peak PM hour trip, you can also see the discussion and what was talked about in the material record was also some additional conditions in the SEPA MDNS. And I want to clarify that this is an informational item for City Council only. The SEPA mitigated determination of non-significance, that's a completed item. It was not appealed at the time. And so it's not part of council's decision-making authority this evening, but I want you to be aware of it as part of the complete project. So part of the conditions within the MDNS include some improvements on and around Blackbird and Cleveland. And that includes some suggestions and some conditions for some additional marked crossings, some curb improvements, some additional school and some speed signage as well. So the hearing examiner's report, if you've had a chance to look at that, it talks about the PM peak hour concurrency, which we just reviewed on pages 5 and 6. And then there's a detailed analysis from TSI about the MDNS conditions. It's found in their report, which is Exhibit 3C in the report. And so it's these conditions that are within the SEPA that are the subject of the city's application for the Safe Routes to School, so that we can look, a lot of these are consistent with our own comprehensive plan and improvements we have planned, so that we can look to support some of the funding for those, as well as the work to support the private school and the public school district, and potentially looking at sharing some of those costs. All right, so again, the findings, again, procedural, factual, and substantive compliance have been met, regulations have been met. The hearing examiner has recommended approval of the request. And so at this time, that would close my presentation. Again, I'd be happy to answer any questions along with the project planner. TSI is available as well. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, Stacy. And Kevin's questions to council and the mayor for disclosures and conflicts, again, applied to the previous item and this item. Questions for Stacy?
Lots of acronyms.
There are.
If you can give
I
me
know,
what
the alphabet
LOS and
soup.
MDNS it means for new council members.
Right, I mean, for those of you who've been here, I know what that is.
I know.
Council, this would be resolution 1065 if you're interested.
You have to do the hearing first.
After I do the hearing. Thank you, Mario.
Dude, Robert's Rules of Order.
Right, that's right. Get in line.
Right.
Uh,
It's always the procedures that'll get you.
With that, we will open the closed record hearing at this time. Anyone wishing to speak, come on up to the podium. Seeing none, we will close the closed record hearing. Pending any questions from council. This, again, is resolution 1065.
I do have a quick question.
Yeah, Mary.
You probably already answered it. There's a lot of stuff here to read. So if when the school district comes in for a project, even though we're going to, talk about this, traffic concurrency plan now, do they have to go through and do another traffic? They have to do this again? I mean, they're going to have to show that it's not going to cause because I have a visual in my head because, and when you live in the city, you tend to, where things are going to get clogged up. So you avoid those areas, but you're picking up kids from school, so you can't really avoid the area. So if you're a parent or whatever. So I'm just curious, there's another check and balance down the road for any different things they might have to do to actually make traffic flow.
Sure. Current evaluation has been based on the current proposal of the size of the buildings and the scope, and I'll let Mary Ann go ahead.
Yes, so for each individual, I'm Mary Ann Manville Ailes. And so for each individual project that would be submitted, there will be a more simplified, streamlined traffic concurrency, just to verify that it's within the parameters that were assumed with this. If it's radically different, if they have a huge increase in the number of students from what they have proposed, or if we've had some radical increase, the road opens up and there's a bridge that gets built across the river, some weird thing that happens that wasn't anticipated, then those would be looked at and could result in additional mitigation requirements.
Okay, thanks, Marianne.
Thanks. Other questions? Resolution 1065.
I'll move for approval of resolution 1065.
Second.
Motion by Mary and a second by Gary. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion passes. Thank you, Stacy. You're up for the next one. Item 6J is the approval of a resolution for the city's public participation plan for the periodic update of the comprehensive plan. Stacy, go ahead.
All right, thank you so much, Mayor and Council. So good evening again. This evening, the department would respectfully request that the council consider adopting a resolution to approve the city's public participation plan for the periodic update to the Mount Vernon Comprehensive Plan, which will be dated from 2025 to 2045. The participation plan, in compliance with the public engagement requirements in both state and local code, proposes a broad set of tools to ensure early, ongoing, and meaningful input from the public as we move through this periodic update. Now, just a reminder that the public participation plan itself, it's not a regulatory tool in and of itself, but it is a framework that it's meant to be dynamic. It can change as council needs it to change. It's meant to be flexible so it can meet the needs of the community. Council will recall that we've been working along with OTAC, city's consultant, on a draft in committee sessions that begin in about September of this year. Had a couple of meetings to review it. So the draft this evening for your consideration tonight, it includes the latest round of edits that was proposed by the council and the planning commission. And additionally, we've also added a section describing in more detail the citizen advisory committees that will be added in 2025. And so if you're happy with the public participation plan, I'd be happy for you to entertain a motion to approve, and then I will get it posted on the website. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Stacy. Saturday's meeting is all over social media right now. It's all over our website. It's the talk of the town. So great job
All
on
right.
public
Awesome.
public information.
And thank you to the mayor's office for your help. getting the
Council,
word out.
any other questions for Stacy on public participation plan? There's no hearing for it. It is resolution 1066. Really, on the last
I
one?
moved, I quickly moved to pass resolution, what was it again?
1066.
Yes, exactly.
Second.
By Gary and a second by Navor. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion passes. Thank you, Stacy. and
Thank you,
to
Mayor and
staff for
Council.
getting that launched.
Pleasure.
For item 7, I'll request that our city attorney please direct the mayor and council into executive session.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of City Council. I invite you to enter into an executive session to discuss with legal counsel matters relating to enforcement actions, litigation, potential litigation, to which the city, the governing body, or any member acting in an official capacity is or is likely to become a party, when public knowledge regarding such discussions are likely to result in either adverse legal or financial consequence to the city pursuant to RCW 4230 subsection 110(1)(I) for 15 minutes with no final action after.
And with that, we will adjourn the City of Mount Vernon City Council meeting for Wednesday, December 11th, 2024 at 8:21 PM.